It's another edition of Time About the Movies. We got to run through this one because we have a lot to get to here. It's Memorial Day weekend, 1991, May 24th, the start of the 1991 summer movie season. Unlike the previous summer, they're not copying what happened in the last summer, and it's going to show with the 8 movies that we have to start off this summer with. The biggest one being Ron Howard's directorial effort, the firefighter drama, the ensemble firefighter drama, I should say, Backdraft. Well, I say we're trying to speed things up here, and I just showed you the entire 3-minute trailer for Backdraft, but you know what? It's worth it, because Backdraft is a pretty damn good movie. Mostly for the visual effects. The effects in this movie, the fire scenes in this, are just phenomenal. I mean, this is a movie that's over 30 years old, and watching these scenes again, where these actors go in here playing firefighters and having to deal with this real fire, is just like, man, this is still intense after all of these years. I mean, this just goes to show you how sometimes how most of the time practical effects really do work. They really do work a lot better than just CG effects. I mean, you feel like you're there with these firefighters. Like, these scenes get so tense and so thrilling that you can't get help but invested in it. You're just so into what's going on there, and I think that's really one of the strongest aspects of this movie. That being said, the performances in this movie aren't bad. They're actually, for the most part, pretty good. You got Kurt Russell, you got William Baldwin, Scott Glenn, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Rebecca De Mornay, Donald Sutherland, and Robert De Niro. And all of them are doing a pretty good job. I think my favorite performances out of this movie were of Kurt Russell, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Rebecca De Mornay. I like William Baldwin in this, although his character was a little bit too formulaic, to say the least. But yeah, maybe to me where the movie kind of falls apart is in the subplot about this serial arsonist who's using these fires to kill these people, and it's just like, and start these fires. And I'm just feeling like this probably could have been more interesting, but it unfortunately goes kind of the way you think it's going to go. You think it's a very formulaic, cliched riddle mystery that's going on around here, and I really think they could have done this a whole lot better, maybe with a better scriptwriter. The scriptwriter for this is Gregory Wyden. I don't know what else he's written. Let me double check real quick. Well, that would probably explain it. He wrote the first Highlander movie, so and Highlander, Highlander, the first Highlander isn't all that bad. Highlander 2, however, that's a whole other story altogether. We'll get to that later in the year, but yeah, overall, that subplot about the serial arsonist and how he uses these fires to start to do his murders and all that could have been a whole lot better with a better script. Even Robert De Niro, who plays the arson investigator, and he's doing these things where he's done this so long that he can tell how a fire moves, and like how a fire so and so picks it, like spreads and all that. Like, there are scenes in here where he doesn't really talk a whole lot about what his job clearly specifies. I'm pretty sure there were some deleted sequences taken on the cutting room floor with him in him, because he's not in the movie as much as you might think he might be. I mean, and I don't know. I like I said, I haven't seen the director's cut of this, so maybe there is more with him in the director's cut. But I mean, I wish they had gone a little bit more into that. But yeah, overall, the real reason to see this movie is because of the fire sequences and the performances. I think those two aspects really do carry this movie over, and it's a movie that still holds up very well after all these years. It's a pretty damn good movie. If you haven't seen Backdraft, I highly recommend checking it out. It's definitely worth the watch. So, with that said, let's get on to the next movie, and that is Bruce Willis's Hudson Hawk. Yeah, this is one of Bruce Willis's biggest misfires ever. I mean, this is a movie that has a good idea to start off with. It's like the idea of this action comedy type of thing that they're doing, and it starts off pretty well. There's a great sequence where Bruce Willis and Danny Aiello are these robbers, and they're singing Bing Crosby Swinging on a Star, and is at the beginning of the movie, and you think to yourself, okay, this is actually kind of amusing. I think they're trying to do something like those 60s parody spy movies or something like the Pink Panther in a way. but unfortunately, the movie really just has a hard time figuring out what it wants to be. Like, how slapstick silly are they going to get with this? Or is how serious are they going to take it? The the balance between the tone of what they're trying to do here just doesn't work very well. That being said, there are some funny moments in here. I'm not going to lie. There's a part with the villains of the film, Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard, where Bruce Willis is like dancing around with Sandra Bernhard, and like Richard E. Grant puts a knife near his crotch, and he's just starts with this high pitched voice and goes, "Well, I always wanted to sing like Frankie Valli." Like that stuff like that does work, but you really have to sit through a lot of terrible jokes. There are some really bad jokes, specifically centered around Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard, who are just like, they don't really know how to play these characters in this movie. It's like, just be loud and rambunctious and over the top, and that'll be funny. And it's just like, well, that doesn't really work like that. And I mean, really, this whole movie really had some potential to it. You can see the potential there, but unfortunately, they just don't show it on the screen. It's just like, there's just so much there that just doesn't really fly. The blending of both Daniel Waters of Heather's fame and Stephen E. D'Souza, who would later write Sudden Death and Street Fighter, their writing ability just doesn't work together. And this is a real major misfire for Bruce Willis, who really was on a roll at this point. And then he made a couple of misfires like this and The Bonfire of the Vanities, and kind of like petered off his career a little bit. But yeah, Hudson Hawk is one of those movies that it could have been something amazing, but unfortunately it just isn't. It's a movie that is one of the biggest misfires of 1991, one of the biggest misfires of all time, and sadly it shows on screen. It just can't find the right tone of what it wanted to be, and occasionally you'll get a decent laugh here or there, or an impressive moment, but overall, yeah, it's a really lackluster movie, to say the least. So with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that next movie is Thelma and Louise. One of the most iconic movies Ridley Scott has ever made. This is the same guy that also did Aliens and Blade Runner. Honestly, I think this may be his most well-known film from the decade of the 90s. I mean, he had Alien, which was his iconic film from the 70s, Blade Runner, iconic film of the 80s. This might be his most iconic film of this decade. I'm just saying that right now. I'd have to go into deeper research to see if there's any movies that top this, but I don't think there is one. I could be wrong on that, but you know what? I'm going to check right now. No, not really. I mean, there's one or two that might have been decent, but this was really the biggest film for him in the 90s, and it's a pretty good movie for a number of reasons. Largely, basically, Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis and their chemistry together and the fact that the movie doesn't pull any punches. The movie basically just doesn't give them the happy ending that they think they deserve. The writing is very well done. They realize that we have to make this as they have to make this as realistic as they possibly could for the most part. I mean, okay, maybe not entirely realistic, but you get the idea. But yeah, overall, yeah, it's a really good movie. It's a very funny film. It's a very serious film. Like I said, the performances by Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis really carry this over. You see Brad Pitt in one of his earliest film roles. I think it might have been his first film role. But Harvey Keitel is in this. Christopher McDonald, a great character actor. And like I said, that ending, really, like that ending, I like that they said that, okay, we know that this has to be the way this ends. Like, we can't just go with a regular happy ending for this. And yeah, and I like what they did. I like that they actually went that way. And yeah, I think it's an overall fantastic film. It's one of those great classic movies. I mean, it's one of those, it's an iconic movie for many reasons, largely because of those moments and the performances by Sarandon and Davis. I've got nothing really more to say about it. Thelma and Louise is just an amazing movie, plain and simple. Moving on to the next movie, and that is John Candy and Ali Sheedy in Only the Lonely. You think John Hughes and Chris Columbus knew when they were making this movie that Home Alone would be such a big success, that it would still be in the top 12 when this movie came out? I mean, Home Alone was still, I think, number 11 in the box office at the time, and then this movie comes out, and Hopefully Fox was not expecting this to have that same success factor as Home Alone did, but I will say this, Only the Lonely is actually a really damn good movie. It's a movie that I don't think a lot of people really give a whole lot of credit for. It's the first movie John Hughes made. I take that back, because Career Opportunities came before that. The second movie John Hughes made after Home Alone became such a big success. And it's a really good movie. Like Career Opportunities, it's a very underrated film. It shows John Candy giving one of his more... still a very funny performance, but a more sincere performance. Like, he's not doing the typical shtick that most comedians of his type would do at this time. Like, he's not doing Uncle Buck again. He's actually giving a legitimate performance that works very well. I like his chemistry between his mother, Maureen O'Hara, and also his girlfriend, Ali Sheedy. The cast overall here is great. You got those three, plus you also have Kevin Dunn, you got Anthony Quinn, you got James Belushi in this. And it's just a funny movie. It's a really funny, sweet movie. It's a movie that a lot of people, I think, overlook because I think they were expecting another Home Alone type of movie because it's the same people behind that film. But not everything can be like Home Alone. As much as John Hughes tried to stay away from that until after Home Alone and Home Alone 2 became successes. But this is a very good movie. It's a very well-made film. Maybe not quite as good as something like Career Opportunities, but it's still a very heartfelt movie. And it was one of John Hughes' 2 comedies in 1991 that were actually really good, because we'll get to Delirious later on when that comes out. But I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I remember watching it on DVD back in the 2000s and thinking, this is a very good movie. I can't believe nobody really talks about this, especially for Candy's performance. Because like I said, it's a bit different kind of performance from Candy that I've seen in other comedies that he's been in. It's a very good film. Definitely check it out if you can find it. Only the Lonely with John Candy and Ali Sheedy. Highly recommend checking it out. So, with that said, let's get on to the next movie, and that is Drop Dead Fred. I don't get why this movie sticks out with the Beetlejuice knockoffs that came out after that movie was so successful. Because this movie, I've seen so many people talk about how much they love this movie. I guess it's for the nostalgic factor. It's one they watched as a kid. But me personally, I just never got it. I mean, I don't think this is a good movie whatsoever. It is not funny. It's stupid. Rick Mayall is very annoying in this. It's even more so than somebody like Howie Mandel in Little Monsters. But this is just stupid. This is a bad movie. I mean, I tried to give it a chance when I first saw it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't really take this seriously whatsoever. It's a movie that it just didn't work for me. I don't think it's funny. I don't think the comedy is written well. They have aspects in here that maybe could be funny, maybe with the right mentality or the right script, but it just didn't work for me. I tried my best to do it, but there's no way you can make this movie work in any way, shape, or form. It's a ridiculous movie. It's not funny. It's not enjoyable. It's a bad movie. It's a really bad movie. Drop Dead Fred. Just, for lack of a better phrase, drop dead. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. And that next movie is, I was about to look and see what it was, but I remembered it. Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. And then Sonora and that horse died right in front of the crowd. It was a very sad day at that carnival. I mean, that really is how that really is how this movie should have ended. I mean, it would have made it much more funnier. But, or if you talk to the actual people behind it, it probably would have made the movie more interesting. Because, no joke, the woman that Gabrielle Anwar plays, she and her sister watched the movie. They were actually very disappointed by what they said, or what the movie did. She basically said that the only thing true in it was that she rode driving horses, she went blind, and then she continued to ride for another 11 years. And the movie made a big deal about having the courage to go on riding after you lose your sight. But the truth was that riding the horse was the most fun you could have, and they just loved doing it so. And that's kind of what I expected from a Disney-fied version of this story. I mean, Disney will obviously go for a darker ending when it needs to with Bambi or Old Yeller, but yeah, they really need to take that route with this. Follow the story the way it was actually told. It was actually a more interesting story right there that could have been used in this film, but unfortunately they took the safe way out. And the movie isn't terrible, but it is pretty much a formulaic story. I mean, it's pretty much kind of like a Black Stallion or Black Beauty type of movie. Gabrielle Anwar really steals the show. She's one of the best things about the film. Of course, led her to movies such as Son of a Woman, and of course, Son of a Woman, and then For Love or Money with Michael J. Fox. But here, I think she is the best part of the movie. She's the reason why you should watch it if you're going to watch it, but I wouldn't rush out to see it unless you really want to see something from Disney. But like I said, it really isn't that good of a movie. It's a movie that kind of falls into the formulaic, cliched, riddled, Disneyfied story of something like this. And it just didn't work for me. I know it didn't work for a lot of people too, but some people liked it, and I guess I could kind of see why, but for me, I just didn't think it worked as well as I thought they wanted it to. But, so with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and now I actually am going to go to see what it is, because I completely forgot about it. It's Straight Outta Brooklyn. Straight Outta Brooklyn. The prequel to Straight Outta Compton. Okay, not really, but, yeah, they made such a big deal about Matty Rich being the next great filmmaker, and while this movie did hype that up, and the movie did actually become a success, he quit. I mean, the next thing he did after that was The Inkwell, and that did not do very well, and then he never got to make another film again. But he actually did go on to become a video game developer. He actually developed 187 Ride or Die, which was not a big success, and now he's actually a video game company. He owns a video game company that specializes in family-oriented and Christian-themed video games geared toward the African-American community, which, I mean, more power to him. I just didn't think there would be that. I would say there wasn't an audience for it, but then again, there's pretty much an audience for everything when you really think about it. I mean, there's an audience for this show, for this show and this channel, quite honestly, which I didn't think I didn't even think that would be a possibility, but I'm getting off topic here. Let's talk about Straight Outta Brooklyn, and I wish I could kind of say more, but this is one of those movies that I haven't seen before. It doesn't look too bad, honestly. I mean, it looks like a well-made film. It did get decent reviews, but I think it's one of those movies that kind of got overlooked by another big movie that came out with a very similar theme to it, Boys in the Hood. That's just my thinking behind it, but it doesn't look too bad. I will say that. It actually looks like a good movie, so maybe someday I might check it out, but I'm not going to rush out to see it at this point. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is Jane Campion's An Angel at My Table. The most Jane Campion movie that ever Jane Campioned. This is Jane Campion's second movie. This is the follow-up to Sweetie. And, again, I can't really comment on it because I haven't seen the movie, but it definitely looks a lot better than Sweetie did. But, that's really all I can say right now. It's a movie that, like I said, it does look like a decently made film. It looks like a visually gorgeous film, quite honestly. There are parts that do seem a little too manipulative in terms of the emotional moments, but I mean, like I said before, it doesn't look too bad. It might be something to check out one day, but yeah, I can't really comment on it, but like I said, it does have some promise to it. So that's really all I can say about An Angel at My Table, quite honestly. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time around, not as many movies to look at, but we have Soap Dish with Sally Field, Kevin Kline, Elizabeth Shue, Whoopi Goldberg, Robert De Niro, and Kathleen Moriarty. We also have Dice Rules, the Andrew Dice Clay movie, which is sort of a comedy movie / documentary type of thing. It's weird. We'll get into that one as well. We'll also look at Everybody's Fine. Not the 2009 Robert De Niro movie, but this is the one with Marcello Mastroianni in it. So we'll look at those 3 movies next time around. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another new episode. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and until then, as always, take care.